slide here, we will just go with the JourneyTEAM by the numbers. If you haven't known of or worked with JourneyTEAM in the past, we are 130 plus team members strong. Over this last 12 months, we have 350 active customers. We've been in business for just shy of 30 years. Our referenceable rate with our customers are fantastic at 90%. A new one this year with Microsoft, how they basically grade partners in the partner ecosystem is by solution partner designations. We have 4 of them, which is fantastic. And over the last 5 years, we have completed 1,300 projects as well. And then some awards that JourneyTEAM has received. We've been Inner Circle for Business Applications before. That's a big thing. That puts us into the top 1% of partners, I believe, globally, or at least in the US. So that's a great thing. Some Best Places to Work awards, some Partner of the Year awards as well. So very nice having those accolades. And then the next slide just is kind of an overview of the entire what we cover here at Microsoft or at JourneyTEAM within the Microsoft stack. It's very extensive, but we do have expertise within each of the platforms, between Dynamics to Microsoft 365, which we're covering here today, but then also like data and BI, change management and adoption. So we have expertise across the board. So if you have questions, that's why we have all the different sessions between yesterday and today. So please check out the other sessions if you haven't yet, or going forward, definitely please reach out. I'm not the expert. That's why we have Napoleon here, who I'll be introducing here next. But we definitely focus within the Microsoft stack, which is a very big deal, just bringing all these technologies together. And with that, I'm very excited to present or introduce our speaker here today. You guys are definitely in for a treat. And with that, Napoleon, I'll let you take it from here.
Okay. Thanks, BJ. Like he said, my name's Napoleon. I'm on the content and collaboration practice here at JourneyTEAM. So within that stack, in Microsoft that you saw just the previous slide, I focus on the content, collaboration, and knowledge management aspect of things. And I've been working in this space for several years now. And so have done several implementations and process improvements and change management projects, around items like SharePoint and Teams and how to utilize that, and diving into Stream and Viva and all those new applications and features and functionalities that really help your organization be as effective as possible. And so today, I'm excited to explain about, why Microsoft is the leader in corporate communications. And so just to start off, why is corporate communication so important? Especially nowadays when there's remote work and hybrid work and you really need to emphasize communications, this becomes really at the forefront of an organization's success. And so why is corporate communications important? Just to highlight some reasons why it is important. Internal and external communication is really a vital piece to a healthy organization. Users are going to be interacting with each other in the organization, bouncing ideas back and forth. And, internal users are going to be talking with external folks as well. And so that is super important. And like I mentioned, communications do foster relationship building and engagement among employees. I think that's really important for an organization to stay on top of things, to stay in top of the tech world. And for sharing news and critical updates and changes in the organization that are timely, communication becomes, how good or bad your communication is in your organization becomes really apparent. And like I mentioned, there's going to be opportunities for discussion, for innovation to help with your products that you're selling for your company, and for feedback. That's a great way. And then org-wide communication really does support company culture. And so those are some, important reasons why corporate communication is important. And as I go through these slides, hopefully you can see why Microsoft really is the leader in corporate communications. And so just to go through some statistics, whether it's news announcements, leadership changes, policy changes, critical news that affect someone's workplace and environment, there's lots of failure points that can happen in the company. And communication is a huge one. And so 86% of employees do blame company failures on poor communication. So any of those aspects, they say, you know what, there's just not good communication. And 70% of those individuals, feel like they're not getting the news that they need or want to hear. They're just missing out on really important and vital information. And these items are really not good for an organization's health or their culture. And like I mentioned, 39% of employees don't think there's enough collaboration. That ties back in with communication. And so, we need to improve this statistic, of course, and make sure people do feel like they're getting the news and critical updates and being able to talk with one another in the company. And so here's a graphic of why corporate communications is important. So in many organizations that we've worked with and many of the engagements that I've been involved with as well, there's kind of this diagram that a lot of companies fit under. So let's say that in any given organization, you have new hire announcements and important calendar events like a company party or a company change, or there's a system outage for a weekend or for a day during the business week, or something like, COVID-19 or some important and timely news like that, or there's a policy change. A lot of the times we see these communications filtered to one media, Outlook or email, and they're expecting all that communication to filter through one application and for the entire organization to digest that. And so, I don't think you guys can raise your hand on this meeting, but if you fall under this category, you should definitely take note. And I know many do, and that's how it has been historically. And so today, I really want to focus on communication within the Microsoft 365 stack. And what's great about this is that you're probably already in some form of one of these applications in your organization, whether it is just Outlook. It means you're part of this spoke already in some way. And so today I want to focus on 6 applications, which I know might seem a little overwhelming, but as I go through these through this presentation, you'll see how well they integrate with each other and how well these applications really communicate with each other and help the worker communicate with each other, help the organization communicate to the rest of to every single person. And so with these applications, SharePoint, Teams, Viva, Yammer, Stream, and Outlook, I'll just show, how that's going to be, how you can use those effectively and help improve and make your corporate communications effective. And so Gartner does recognize Microsoft as a leader in unified communication. And so the first application that I want to focus on and kind of highlight some features is SharePoint. And so you might be using this to some degree, but SharePoint is really your application to engage users, to learn about new ideas, learn about how the organization is feeling, and providing a way for people to collaborate with each other. So at its base, SharePoint is really Microsoft's solution for knowledge management and corporate communications. And what makes SharePoint a great tool is that whether you're a younger organization or company with 20 people, or you're a really mature organization with 10,000 people in the org, this is going to fit you and anywhere in between as well. And so some items about SharePoint, it's going to be your center for your organization's internal knowledge base. So how-tos, requests, news, etc., important links. The intranet, your SharePoint intranet, is going to make up this hub for all of that through several portals and pages. And so, like I mentioned, you can share information and really audience and target your end users with, like I said, dozens or hundreds of people. You can share news with more visual possibilities. So like I mentioned in that previous slide, if you're just sending everything through Outlook, that's great. But if you want to spice up your communications to the org, you have lots of different features and functionalities within SharePoint to do that. And I'll be mentioning this several times throughout the deck, but SharePoint is really integrated with other communication outlets. So when I start talking about Stream or Yammer or using Teams, you'll just see how connected and intertwined all of these are, making for an easy experience when you're in that ecosystem. And so just to highlight a couple of things in SharePoint, one of the big things that we love to engage with our customers with is a world-class intranet. And so I want to highlight, typical mistakes and challenges that organizations see when trying to implement or try to engage and adopt a world-class intranet. And we've run into several of these mistakes and challenges, and so these are pretty common. And so one of the first things is competing systems. So again, as an organization matures and you're getting more services and systems in to make your work effective, we've seen organizations utilize probably too many systems. And so, they might be using one tool for document management, and then they're using a completely separate tool for an intranet portal. And then they're using even another separate tool for their video and chat purposes. And then, at that point, you end up having too many competing systems. And so it becomes difficult to implement something like a SharePoint intranet, because then there's just too many already. And users are going to say, where do I log in? Where do I go? So that's one typical mistake and challenge. And again, getting into the ecosystem, which you might already have, reduces that load. The next one is executive buy-in. Obviously, we want to engage the right people and the right stakeholders. And so deploying a corporate intranet does require planning. It's not enough just to build the intranet, build a bunch of cool features, get all the communications in there if there's no buy-in from the executives, and I would say even buy-in from the end users. And so going back to that communication aspect, it's extremely important to let every single audience member in the organization aware of how this can improve their workload specifically. The next item, information overload. You may run into too much content if everything is funneled through email or several different applications. Again, going back to that initial graphic, if you're just funneling information through one application, you're going to end up with like a lot of spam. People are not going to pay attention to news. You end up with those problems. So simplifying your technological landscape can improve that dissemination of information. The best way to do that is getting into that Microsoft stack. And then knowledge organization. So this is a huge one, and this is what my practice focuses in on as well. Excuse me. You have to be strategic about where you put your knowledge and information. The information that you're sending out to your users, they have to be able to find content easy. They just want quick. If they need a template, they want to find it quick. If they need to find where the PTO request is, they got to find it quickly. And so organizing that knowledge and information is important and a big challenge for a lot of organizations. And then the last thing I'll touch on, and then I'll highlight some cool aspects of SharePoint, is just a change management aspect. To adopt and engage everyone in the organization and those different audiences, from your managers to your executives to those end users, you have to have a plan for how you're going to target and how to relay the information to them that something like a world-class intranet is beneficial for them, and how it'll improve and make their workload efficient and effective. And so you just got to focus on some of those items, and these are some typical mistakes and challenges that you see. Okay, so just to highlight a couple things with SharePoint and a world-class intranet, here's some graphics of of what you can do with communication in SharePoint. And so news and information to the organization is a huge aspect of one. So you can create different news sources and aggregate that into one portal, and you can favorite those and have, like I mentioned, that visual news available to users online. And when you create news online, you can still send it out in Outlook so that they get it and they'll get relayed back to SharePoint. But it's a great way to create news and just use a different media other than email. It helps them get onto that intranet and drive adoption and usage. Here's another aspect of the engage piece of SharePoint. Here at JourneyTEAM, we can build custom web parts and different features and functionalities on SharePoint that meet your needs. And so something like an employee recognition tool is something that we've created in the past and continue to deploy for several organizations to drive engagement. Users love to be able to participate in the intranet other than just, getting and reading information. So this is a great way for employees to give shout outs to one another and use the intranet not only for communication one way, but for engaging and being active in the intranet. Here's another piece on that point about timely communication and important news. There's several news sources that different departments and practices in your organization can manage on their own. So having latest updates and resources and quick contacts and items like that, your leadership can manage and your different departments can manage and have their own area of the intranet. So it's really self-serving and it's easy to learn for the departments with a little bit of training. And so that's a great way to spread out communication instead of funneling it to just one person or one department. You can really let departments and different practices have ownership of their communication and what they want to show the rest of the org. So that's a couple highlights of SharePoint. Moving on, I want to move into Teams. So Teams is, I am always in Teams, and so new features and what I'm about to talk about is really exciting. And so if obviously you're on Teams, but if you have a different video or chat platform, I would really, consider looking into Teams to integrate into your SharePoint, into your Stream, into your Yammer. And so Teams, just to highlight a couple features with Teams, and I'll dive into Teams Premium, which is coming out pretty soon. Obviously, Teams is your video conferencing and chat platform and live events. You can set up and customize and collaborate in Teams. So this is the solution for users not thinking there's enough collaboration. You can have channel posts and comments on there. You can follow different channels, get notifications for them. You can use @mentions for names of people to really target an individual or a group of people. For your different events, you can have up to 20,000 attendees via a team live event. So it's quite a big number. So for big, town halls in your organization, or if you're needing a bigger meeting, there's capacity for that in Teams. And even within a team or specific channel, when you create those different buckets of collaboration, you can have up to 10,000 people. So that's a lot. I don't know if you're ever going to collaborate with 10,000 people at the same time, but it's there for you. And like I mentioned in SharePoint, this integrates really well with SharePoint. The file management of Teams is really just SharePoint on the back end. And then once I get into it, you can see how Yammer and Viva can also be embedded directly into Teams, simplifying all the different applications into one interface. And so what I really wanted to talk about today with Teams is Teams Premium. So this is going to be a new offering That's going to make your meetings, your large meetings, your appointments, your webinars, just more personalized, more intelligent, more secure. And this preview is coming in December. And so it's not out yet, but here's a preview of what you can expect with Teams Premium. So one of the first things here that you see on the screen is a customized meeting branding. And so if you can remember, whenever you go into a meeting lobby, it's always just, that gray or white background with a join. But now you can customize that to your organization's branding. And so you can have custom icons in that background. And so whenever you join a meeting, you can know that, I'm joining a JourneyTEAM meeting, or I'm joining this company's meeting. So that's going to be super cool. Another new feature is meeting guides. And so just to zoom in, meeting guides, let me go back a slide actually. So meeting guides automatically create the right meeting. And so your IT department can customize and create these meeting guides. And basically these are templates so that when you're going to create a new meeting, instead of having to configure all the options for, camera settings and branding and et cetera, you can create these meeting guides. That way, when you create a new one, you can select something like client call, and all your different options for that meeting and meeting configurations can be set. And so the full list of details of what you can customize and set will be coming out. Like I said, there's not a list of details yet, but you can create meeting guides, something like client calls or brainstorming session or help desk, just to ease the way you create meetings. So that's going to be super helpful and effective with communication, especially with those one-on-one meetings or those team meetings. This is what I'm excited about. There's going to be this new feature called AI-powered meetings and intelligent recap. So I'm sure with all these online meetings that we've been in the past few years, there's definitely those meetings where you don't want to decline those meetings because you don't want to be rude, or you don't want to come off as you don't want to come to that meeting, but you don't decline a meeting and then you end up joining it, but you're multitasking, and so you don't end up listening to the meeting anyways, and you have no idea what's going on by the end of it. So yeah, if you've ever been in that, drop a comment. I know you've all been in that. I've been in that. And if you haven't, you're lying. But we've all been in those meetings where, at the end of it, you're like, all right, let me talk to my project manager, my project lead, and see what's happened. If I have any action items, what the notes are, what the agenda even was. And so with Intelligent Recap, what happens in these meetings is that it's going to automatically take meeting notes and automatically provide suggested action items with owners to them. And so you can see in this deck, or in this picture that's on the screen, is that agenda at the top, the meeting notes in the middle, and then those follow-up tasks. Intelligent Recap will try and pick that up throughout the meeting. And so rather than going back and asking several people or trying to scramble and figure out what happened the past hour with the meeting that you weren't listening to, AI will be able to drum this up for you. So that's going to be really awesome. And you can go and confirm these. Obviously, if AI gets it wrong and it might be a specific task might be assigned to someone else, you can change that. But at least this will give you that head start of building those meetings out, so that way your meetings are more effective. And you'll have a little bit of extra help with making sure you capture important takeaways and whatnot. And it's really cool because it'll create smart recordings as well that's posted onto Stream, which again, I'll talk about. But with those recordings, it'll generate chapters automatically. So if you switch topics within a meeting or your name is dropped, it'll highlight that. It'll highlight when people shared their screen, and it'll even highlight when you left. I think that's in this next slide. Actually, I'll show in these intelligent meetings, just to zoom in really quick. when meetings are recorded, it'll show like, hey, you left at this meeting. So that's super helpful if you're wanting to, if you have to drop early from a meeting and don't want to miss it and just want to watch that piece that you missed, you can go back and see exactly where that's at. So that's going to be a really awesome feature in Teams Premium. So let me go back. Again, going back to what I mentioned, when Intelligent Recap summarizes all the items, you can see how it captured it. So you can see where, when in the meeting it captured it and kind of show the context and the transcript of when this follow-up task was mentioned, and you can accept that and remove it, or remove it if it's not real, and add an assignee or change that. So you have different options there. Yeah, there you go, your smart videos. Another item that you see here that's going to be really awesome is virtual appointments. And so just managing end-to-end appointments and virtual appointments with whether it's external clients or customers or patients, or even just your team, you're going to be able to have a dedicated space within Teams called virtual appointments. So it's kind of like this portal and hub for your team, for your virtual appointments. So you're going to have booking schedules, you can have a queue and analytics around it, and you're going to be able to see multiple people's availabilities. And so for those managing appointments, this will make your life a lot easier by knowing, who's available, when. You can see metrics around it, etc. And so you can see here, you can also send a text message to those recipients of that meeting. So that's going to be really cool too. That's going to come out. So here's some additional features of Microsoft Teams Premium. Like I just mentioned, you can allow, so when you create a virtual appointment or meeting, you can opt to send text reminders to the meeting invites. So not only will they get a notification via email or Teams notifications, they'll also get text reminders to tell them to join. And when they do, they can join that custom branded virtual appointment through their mobile devices without having to download Teams. So they can just get in their browser and have that full experience on the browser. And actually, virtual appointments is available today. So you can easily schedule those appointments and manage that whole entire appointment experience. I didn't highlight it necessarily, but you're gonna have the ability to measure really rich analytics. So these analytics will be able to track people that didn't show up, so no shows, the wait times of attendees. You can even see who attended by staff or by department, and see org-wide level analytics. So that's going to be helpful to see to improve your meetings, like your town halls or your team meetings, to see what you can do to improve engagement and attendance. With your meeting guides, that was one of the first items that I highlighted. You'll be able to create customized meetings like your client calls and brainstormings. Some items that I don't have listed here, there's going to be more features, to webinars called advanced webinars. It's just going to provide a new set of controls for your webinars. There's going to be streamlined registration, wait lists, and approvals. Again, there's going to be automated reminder emails and text messages with your webinars. And so when you have those big meetings, you can really have the users interact more and send out communication to those attendees to make sure that the attendance is high and people are getting on these meetings. So with Microsoft Teams Premium, currently it's not official, but Microsoft has stated that pricing is going to be around $10 per user. The general availability will be in February of 2023, so Q1 of next year. General availability will be out. If you have preview, that'll start in December, so you might start seeing some of these features and functions by the end of the year. An intelligent recap will be released first half of 2023. So you can expect to see some of these features pretty soon. And I would say if you this is a great way for communication, to a great step up to Microsoft Teams. So if you need improvement in communication to your org or to your external users and clients and customers and patients, whoever you're communicating with, this is going to be a great add to that Microsoft stack. All right, so those are two so far. Here's Stream. Stream is another great way, a different form of communication. It's Microsoft's video platform solution. And so Stream is your way to securely upload your videos, organize it in different buckets, and share videos to one another. And so a lot, you know, you can share your meeting recordings, presentations that you do, your training sessions, and just other different recordings you can host on Stream. And Stream you can embed within SharePoint. And so when you're creating your world-class intranet, if you have a section of trainings on Stream, you can, you know, embed that directly into SharePoint. You can have different Stream sections and within Teams and Yammer and etc. Like I mentioned, these different applications really just roll into one another. And so really diving into utilizing these items can be really effective in terms of communication. So what can you do in Stream? So I kind of touched on this already, but if you've missed something on Teams, whenever you record a meeting in Teams, it's always going to be recorded and uploaded either into your OneDrive or Stream. And so you can quickly find different chapters, and you can actually start searching your transcript. And so when that gets generated, you can search through keywords and whatnot to find what you're looking for within the video. Like Teams and SharePoint, you can give and receive feedback with comments. You can mention people as well within Stream. And so not only is it a video platform, but it also is a way to communicate with one another. So if there's a presentation or a training and you want to give some feedback, you don't have to email the owner of the video or the department and give feedback. You can provide that immediately and communicate right away. And so those videos are obviously always available in Stream. So you have that flexibility to watch those videos and your meeting recordings in your own time and across your different devices that you have. So whether you're on a laptop or phone or iPad or tablet, you have different options. And this is a really good use case, this next slide. So for example, if a certain department has teams that they've created. So for example, this one is Engineering 101. So this is actually an education example, right? So Education 101, that might be a class, a specific course. What happens is when you upload your videos to Stream, it can be specific to this team. And so then, once you start uploading and organizing your content that way, you can start creating, specific engineering videos and have this repository of trainings and whatnot specific to a Teams or a channel or a group within your organization. So this becomes part of that knowledge base that I was talking about. And again, it's a really great way to communicate to the users and for the users to get information if they need it. And so some use cases that I've seen people use it, they host one client that I've worked with, they create their own trainings and they create their own training platforms and not internally. And so they use Stream to organize that and use that for learning and development within their organization. And they just host that on Streams. And so then by doing so, People can access their learning and development trainings and videos and whatnot through Teams, whether they're in Teams or on SharePoint or in OneDrive, whichever application they're in within that Microsoft stack. Those kind of items are always available. So that's one great use case to use this is, move those items over into Stream and have that available easily. And then, of course, this next slide, like I mentioned, you're going to be able to easily share these videos with one another, providing, conversation around trainings or different meetings. You can have those interactive comments like you see on the screen. So you have different sharing options. You can send that link. You can embed this into Teams directly or onto your department's SharePoint site. Different options there. Okay. Moving on to the next application is all about Viva. So Viva is exciting. There's been lots of new updates and different modules within this Viva umbrella. And Viva is really a personalized employee experience. And this is a great way for, again, users to get information and for content owners and departments within an organization to communicate out to their employees. So Viva, if you haven't seen already, it's really a lot of different parts to Viva, but really what its goal is to focus on the employee experience. And Viva can be accessed via Teams, via SharePoint, Yammer. You can see those Viva apps, Viva connections in those different applications as well. And so one of the great things about Viva connections is centralizing location for organizational news. So going way back to the beginning of this presentation, when you have timely, important news that you need to get out to your employees, this is one great medium to make sure that all the news is aggregated into one location so that it's easy for people to find the news. And so I'll kind of show that Viva dashboard, but your Viva dashboard basically is a bunch of different cards that you can audience as well. And so you can target specific audiences within your organization. And it's really these cards here in this next slide that you can see. These cards really show a bunch of different information. So you can see here some different examples of cards is you can see the holidays that are coming up, some expenses, some time off that you have available. In this example, there's that Viva Learning, so there's privacy trainings that might pop up. And again, this can be dynamic for the user, it can be targeted and audienced, and so this just provides a host of information in a single portal. So here's an example here at JourneyTEAM of our Viva Connections dashboard. We have this integrated within our teams here at JourneyTEAM, and this is a pretty simple dashboard, but Viva Connections, you can see that on that left-hand side of Teams. So like I mentioned, this is directly integrated with Teams. You get this dashboard. It's really a sneak peek into SharePoint. And so in this Viva Connections dashboard, you see just several links and several links to resources that the employee needs. And so you can see there that there's some tasks that I have due, and that kind of pulls from the different applications as well. There's that feed for Viva Connection. So that's that aggregated news post that I mentioned that kind of consolidates all the news that's relevant to me or to the organization into one area. And so if you have a bunch of different departments creating news posts and sending that out, Viva Connections will allow you to have a place to see all of that. And directly in Teams, you don't even have to open up another browser. You can just see it directly in there. So here's the cards that are available within Viva Connections. So you have your approvals. So for items like vacation requests or signing off on documents, or approving something like an expense report or a task. Those are available as a card in that dashboard. Right here, going back to that slide, these are the different cards that are available. There's assigned tasks. You saw that in the JourneyTEAM Viva connections. There's different tasks that, if your team's assigned to, that you can track. There's a card designer where you have the flexibility to create your own cards and quick views. Shifts is one for displaying shifts of an employee or a team member. That way you can see when they're available, when they're not available. There's even a Teams app card. So you can use this to connect with Teams. There's that top news card. That's part of what helps surface up news that are important from SharePoint, aggregated news, and there's a web link. And so you can access a SharePoint site without ever leaving the Viva Connections app. And this next slide, just to give a sneak preview, this isn't Viva Connections, but Viva also has additional modules that integrate with the rest of your ecosystem. So for example, this is a sales example. And so when you have a sales call or an opportunity with a customer or client, Viva is actually intelligent enough to track those calls and keep track of emails related to those calls, excuse me. It'll keep track of the individuals in that meeting, and in that Viva Sales tab, it actually give you intelligent information. You can kind of see at the bottom of where you can see there's this item called sentiment. It's kind of cool actually, where you can see if you're trying to sell a product or explain a new opportunity. There you can see when they feel positive about it or negative or neutral. Viva Sales will integrate with your CRM, and again, keep track of emails, and even in your Outlook. I think I might have a slide on that. I don't remember, but even in your Outlook, it'll say, keeping track in sales, and you can add new contacts to your ops and whatnot. And again, just a better way to improve efficiency in your communications and whatnot in your organization. Okay. Just the last couple. So touching on Yammer. Yammer is another great way to foster communication, different type of communications within your organization. It's really your professional social networking and live events. So within Yammer, you can build different communities of interest. You can have long posts and chats about different ideas. You can solicit feedback from employees in Yammer, and you can highlight different conversations in Yammer and integrate those into SharePoint and Viva connections. So tying that back to those previous applications. So within Yammer, excuse me, you can create polls, praise other employees, announcements. You can do questions in Yammer. So it's really just a great way to interact and engage and communicate in a different medium other than something super formal like an email or a SharePoint news post. You can use Yammer for that. And you can add Yammer to a Teams channel. So again, tying this back to why Microsoft is a leader in corporate communications is because even though you have all these different applications, they really are so integrated with each other that it doesn't seem like it's a lot of different applications. That's what makes it great, is that you have different mediums that make it easy to communicate. There's Yammer web parts in SharePoint as well to surface up different information. And you can even organize your different live events within Yammer. So that's really great. Great way to get a bunch of attendees in your organization. So this next one, this is kind of what you see Yammer is online. So kind of looks like Facebook. You have your dashboard and your feed of different posts and whatnot. You can love, comment, share those posts, share files, and you can have different communities over on the left-hand side for your different Yammer groups. So if it's something a little bit more serious, or if you want to have a community of pets and talk about your cute dogs and cats, you can have that. This is also a great way to provide important information as well, even though Yammer is more of that social media for communications. If there's something important like outage or something like COVID-19, you can post that, people will find it on there. Okay, and just moving on to the last applications is Outlook. So I just left this for last because obviously you probably all use some type of email or calendaring already. But Outlook, like I mentioned, is already part of that Microsoft ecosystem. You may not know it, and so it's just one aspect of that spoke. But Outlook is still a great way to communicate. I'm not deterring you from emails completely. I'm just giving you options and seeing and letting you know how communication can be done in other ways besides email. And so obviously with Outlook, you still have the functionality to reach, really unlimited numbers of recipients. You still have some limitations within, something like Teams where there's a cap to how many people can join a meeting and whatnot. They're big caps, but Outlook, you can reach a lot of people, schedule email messages. That's great. So, you can do this in SharePoint as well. But if you have email messages that need to be sent out at a specific time, but you have the content already, you can schedule that. What's great is, again, those at mentions, you can use that in the body email to specify individuals within that content. You can set up different Outlook message templates to standardize some of those corporate communications. That way, if certain departments need to communicate out to a lot of people, they're not using a completely separate set of icons and formatting and imagery. You can standardize that and get those corporate communications in line. You can add and request read receipts and delivery notifications. So that's a great way to track messages and news posts and get analytics on that. And again, even with Outlook, you can even create polls and view results of those. And so you can see that some of those features and functionalities are available everywhere in Microsoft 365. So here's a slide. And going back to that Viva sales, something that I just touched on. So when you're emailing back and forth with a potential customer, within your Outlook, it'll like I mentioned, it'll track and it'll notice that you're talking to an external contact, and you can add those external contacts as new accounts or new contacts to your Dynamics 365. So not really a different application from your CRM, but really just another way to integrate and improve efficiency. So rather than doing those manually, Viva Sales can pick that up in your emails within Outlook, and then you can just make some of those processes a lot faster and add contacts to Dynamics, and then it'll keep track of that sales op and whatnot. So that's a really great way to integrate Viva with your emails and with your Dynamics. So kind of a cool module that has been released recently, I believe, if not already released. So yeah. And just to wrap things up, those were the 6 applications that I focused on today of why Microsoft is the leader in corporate communications. And so just to recap a couple items, my call to action is really review where you fall short on communications and see where you can improve and implement some of this. And so if you have teams and maybe you have some pain points from users that you've been hearing of, it's confusing where to go for news posts. How do I create teams? Why should I create new teams? If you haven't implemented SharePoint and feel like SharePoint would be a great tool to use for corporate communications and to have another medium for that, see where your corporate intranet is. If it's not on SharePoint, if it is, are you using it effectively? With your stream, can you utilize that more effectively to host trainings and learning and development items and for providing a video platform for your organization? your Yammer, can you set up Yammer, create communities, start getting people engaged online in the Microsoft platform and communicating that way? Because a lot of times communication can happen casually, and a lot of communications happen casually. And so that's a great way to get people engaged. With Viva Connections, getting integrated with SharePoint and Teams, and um, having information and news aggregated into one portal is a really easy way for users to have a better experience with communications, rather than just getting a bunch of emails and having to read through those. And I highlighted Teams Premium. If you're using Teams and need more functionality, definitely something to look forward to, with those different, customized branding and team functionalities like those intelligent recaps, so that way your meetings are more effective and communication is improved. But yeah, here at JourneyTEAM, we're experts at all those technologies and can really help improve your communications within your organization. Diving into the ecosystem has been a great benefit to lots of customers we've engaged with, and so see where you fall short and see where you can improve, and let us help you with that. And with that, that's my presentation. Hopefully you've learned something new about one of these applications, or at least piqued your interest. I'm happy to talk to you more about it. Hopefully we can.